This is the moment she goes to pick up the man she loves after he's released from jail. It had been a long wait, and with their wedding just around the corner, there was every reason to celebrate. She walks him to the car, opens the door for him, and together they begin the drive home.
You got my ID?
Hey, me too.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm finna fly back home.
Not right here.
Cause my finna eat steaks and shit. You gonna have to pull up today. It's a whole bunch of drunk shit going on at the house. I'm finna take them to see his mama first stop when I get to Dallas.
I'm going to pause the footage here because I want to show you another clip. Don't worry, we'll come back later in the video and watch everything unfold in full. When they arrived home, the house had been beautifully decorated to welcome him back. Every detail reflected the excitement of starting a new chapter together, with their long-awaited wedding only days away.
My best friend keeps saying. Okay. Come back this way, Mike.
But I need to tell you something. Just weeks after these joyful moments, this woman was gone. We're going to take a close look at this case because there is so much we can learn from it, especially the warning signs that, in hindsight, may have helped prevent this tragedy. Now, if you've never left a comment on any story I've shared on this channel, this is the one I'd love to hear your thoughts on. Your comment could help another mother, another family, or someone facing a similar situation. Let me start with this beautiful, innocent soul. Deshae LaFaye Stevenson was born on the 16th of November, 1988 in Dallas, Texas. And by the time she hit her mid-30s, she had become the person her whole family leaned on. She carried a lot of weight for the people she loved. Her mother had a stroke and was left partly paralyzed, so Deshae stepped up and took care of her. On top of that, she was raising her teenage daughter more or less on her own, and that daughter was her whole heart. She was also building a name for herself in business because in 2021, she opened her own boutique, Shea Money 3 Purses and More, right there on Malcolm X Boulevard in Dallas, selling purses and accessories and running her little sales online. She did taxes for people too, because she was the type who always kept more than one hustle going.
At the office, playing with these numbers. This is for somebody with a W-2 form that ain't worked all year. Got they tax credit all 6 months and with 3 dependents. Don't play with me. Come file, unlimited.
This was not a woman waiting on a man to save her. She was the provider, planner, and the one who made things happen. And her brother said it plain when he talked about who really ran the money in that relationship. Here is where the trouble starts. Deshae met a man named Michael Smith before his life fell apart back in 2016. That was the year he caught drug charges and sentenced to about 5 years in a Texas prison. A lot of women would have walked away right there, but Deshae did the total opposite and stayed down for him the entire time he was locked up. She visited, wrote to him, and sent money. Deshae kept his spirits up, all while she was raising a kid and taking care of her paralyzed mama. Most people would have broken down from being the one caring for everyone, but Deshae never even flinched, because in her mind, she was not wasting those years. She was building toward the day he came home so they could finally start their real life together. When he finally got out around 2021, she picked him up and threw a whole celebration.
You going live again? Hold up.
Yeah, that got my nigga.
Yeah, my name. Period. Big red, my shit. I think I might get it right. This what they been waiting on, ain't it? Ain't nothing so heavy, I ain't the crying this thing. This I ain't just mad him not crying. Like you get the point, you crying, like you crying, you crying.
She booked a hotel, handed him $10,000 in cash.
So I wanted to give you 10 in cash. I don't know what you're gonna do with it. You can do whatever you want to. 10,000. I don't know. Here, baby. And I got it in there too. The rest of it in there, baby. You're welcome, baby. You're welcome, baby.
And within days, she married him in a ceremony she planned and paid for out of her own pocket.
Yes, you do. I give you all my life, all my love is you. Promise that you'll be here forever. I give you all of me.
In her mind, this was the reward for all those years of waiting, and she was ready to live in her happy ending. For a while, from the outside, it looked like a real fairy tale. She posted about him all the time, called him her world, and kept the gifts coming.
She wrote in an Instagram post, "I already married the love of my life at May 24th, 2021. I really prayed and cried out to God to send me somebody to love me for the real me. God sent me a king. My husband is so faithful to me. He ain't no running around making me look stupid. My husband is one of a kind. Good, bad, happy or sad. That's my husband. I cry so much before. I never felt this kind of love before. It's scary because he treats me like a queen. He shows me what love really means. I married a man, not a little boy."
She loaded him with another $10,000 cash for his birthday, a diamond ring, a trip to Jamaica, even paying to fix his teeth. She treated that man like a king. But money cannot fix what is broken inside a person, and behind that happy Facebook page, something ugly was quietly growing. In front of other people, Michael came off quiet and came off sweet, laid back and easygoing. Deshay's family liked him just fine at first. Behind closed doors, though, the people closest to Deshay started noticing a whole different man. He got jealous of her. And that is the part that makes no sense, because here was a woman running her own shop, making her money, and standing on her 2 feet, and instead of proud of her, he seemed to hate her for it. He had come home with no job or plan, leaning on her for everything, and that dependence slowly turned into anger. It got worse because reports say his old drug habit came back, this time with PCP, which is the kind of drug that can make a person paranoid and hard to predict. Family members later described him flipping out, accusing her of setting him up and even showing off a gun. In public, he was the sweet, quiet man, but in private, the way they tell it, he turned into a monster. Deshay started walking on eggshells around him and got secretive, so she stopped telling her family the full story because she didn't want them judging the man she loved. She kept the worst of it to herself and only really opened up to her daughter late at night.
We was just a little bit too late. I don't know if I could have helped, if I could have saved her. So it was signs that led up to certain things, little fights and arguments, and of course it's signs, but of course they're going to try to hide that from their loved ones because they don't want you to feel the type of way about the person that they love.
That silence would end up costing everybody because the signs were all there and almost nobody knew how bad it truly got. Just a few days before everything ended, on her sister's birthday, Deshay called to say happy birthday. They laughed and joked, and everything felt normal, until out of nowhere, she said something that made no sense in the moment. Her sister brushed it off, and you probably would too, because you don't expect the person laughing on the phone with you to be telling you goodbye. Looking back, though, the family believes Deshay already knew she was feeling her own death coming, and she still couldn't bring herself to leave.
Well, on the 21st, it was my birthday, and she called me, she wished me happy birthday. It was like, normal, whatever. We was laughing, joking. And then she just said, like, sister, I feel like I'm finna die. So I was like, girl, whatever, brushed it off or whatever, not thinking that's really how she was feeling. Like, I guess she was feeling her death. So she kept saying her and my niece was gonna come and bring me a gift, but they never showed up. So we had talked Sunday, and she was telling me how he was tripping at the fur, and he was trying to leave her and my niece. He was saying, like, she was trying to set him up, flipping out, saying that.
A day or two after that call, the strange behavior got worse. Deshay told her sister that Michael was tripping at a funeral, that he tried to leave her stranded there, and that he was accusing her of setting him up in front of Facebook people. Then, that Monday, she just went quiet. Her daughter couldn't reach her, and her mother sat home alone, and this was a woman who never left her daughter or her mama hanging like that. Something was very wrong, and the family didn't know it yet, but the clock had already run out. When Deshay went silent, the family didn't sit around waiting, they moved. Late that Monday night, the calls started flying, and by the middle of the night, her people were out in the streets of Dallas searching for her themselves. They begged the police for help that first night, and the family says they got almost nothing back, just officers knocking on a door, shining a flashlight around, and repeating that there was nothing they could do. So the family did the job themselves and circled that neighborhood for hours in the dark, chasing every bad feeling they had. At one point, one of her relatives got so worried about Deshay's mother and daughter sitting at home with no answers that he busted a window just to get inside Deshay's house and check on things. And the second he stepped in, it hit him like a wall. The place was too quiet, no sign that Deshay had been home at all, and that empty feeling told him something was badly wrong before anybody said a single word. Her cousin, who happened to be studying criminal justice, started reading the scene like a real case. The first stop was the husband's spot, and it was also empty and dead quiet, like nobody had been there in days. Then they got word about Deshay's car and went straight to it and found it parked strangely and tucked away between other cars at the Pleasant Village Apartments, which happened to be where Michael's father lived. The second the cousin looked at that car, one detail jumped right out. There was a big handprint smeared across the driver's window, and her keys were just sitting in the passenger seat, which made no sense at all. The chills started running down their bodies.
Around that same stretch of the night, her brother pulled up on Michael himself in that dark apartment and found him pacing back and forth with a gun strapped to him, dropping his head and mumbling that he did not know where she was. He told her family they should go find her, while he already knew exactly where she was laying. Then the post hit. A local crime page put up that a woman had been found shot to death nearby, only a few minutes from where the family was standing. So they rushed straight to the location and found police already there. They had to give details to help identify the body, and when the officers came back, they could not even bring themselves to say the words. They just nodded. Everybody just broke down right there on that road.
And when we got there, we, had to describe and, give them some details to identify her. And when they came back, they didn't even want to say it was her. It was just the nod in the head, and it just went from there. Everybody just broke down.
Here's what investigators figured out about that morning. Around 7:20 in the morning on the 25th of October 2023,
Dallas police answered a call about a shooting on Murdoch Road near Lincoln Memorial Cemetery in southeast Dallas. When they pulled up, they found Deshai's body on the side of the road. She had been shot at close range in the chest and died right there at the scene. Police believe the shooting happened inside Michael's own vehicle during an argument, and that afterward he drove her to that spot by the cemetery and dumped her there. Evidence later tied the whole thing together, including blood in the car, a bullet casing, and even her sandal left behind. Once they had a name, the police moved fast. They tracked Michael to a house and even sent a SWAT team, but he was not there. Shortly after, somebody spotted him coming from a gas station. They arrested him right there at the barber shop the same day her body was found. When they took him in, he tried to blame the drugs, saying he was so full of PCP that he did not even know what he was doing. But investigators were not buying that at all, and even his own family put the drug story on record. Being high does not put a gun in your hand and point it at your wife, though. Michael Smith was charged with murder and held on a $1 million bond, and the case rolled toward a jury trial. This is the part that shows you just how much proof they had. When the case finally went in front of a jury, the family says the prosecution actually had video of the crime itself, and they played it in that courtroom over and over, breaking it down piece by piece for the jury. Her sister said she stayed in her seat through all of it, because as painful as it was finally the truth being told out loud. In the end, the jury came back with the verdict the family had been praying for, and Michael Smith was convicted of murdering Deshai Stevenson and sentenced to 55 years in prison.
Okay, y'all, we are celebrating Deshai. We got the purple bottle. Long live Deshai. Long live Deshai. We won today in court. Of course, he was found guilty, and they gave him 55 years. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Long live Deshai.
55 years for the same woman who waited 5 years for him, paid for his freedom, and gave him her name, her money, and her whole heart. The thing that hurts her family the most is that she did nothing wrong except love too hard. And her sister said it best when she looked into a camera and asked the only question that really matters. There is no answer that will ever be good enough. And what cuts even deeper is that this was not the first time domestic violence tore through this family. Years before Deshai died, one of her aunts had already lived through something similar, and she paid for it with her legs. That aunt was the woman Deshai looked up to the most, so she wanted the big house, the strong marriage, and the whole picture her aunt seemed to have. When Deshai told her family she was going to fight for her marriage the way her aunt fought for hers, they understood exactly where it came from. The heartbreaking part is that both women fought hard for love, and both of them got destroyed by it, since one will never walk again and the other never made it out at all. Deshai's story is heavy, but the sad truth is she is not the only woman who ended up like this.
Face down. That's not good stuff.
It's killing me inside. I miss my baby. Life is not the same. I don't know who I'm gonna be after this.
On the evening of December 11th, 2021, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, a 23-year-old woman invited over a man she had just met on a dating app. But little did she know, this date would change everything. The next morning, that same man would wake up to find Lauren Smithfield's unresponsive, blood trickling from her nose, her chest no longer rising. This was when police received the 911 call that led them to Lauren's apartment. And there, instead of launching a full investigation, they let the only person with her that night walk free, no questioning, no arrest, no real answers. But what Lauren's family would soon uncover pointed to something far more disturbing than a simple accident, and far more corrupt than anyone expected. This is the life and death of Lauren Smithfields. By the way, if this story gripped you, we've covered other chilling cases just like this one. Check out the links in the pinned comment below for more true crime stories we've already published. You won't want to miss them. Lauren Smith Fields was born on January 23, 1998, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, to Chantel Fields and Everett Smith. From the very beginning, she brought joy and light to her family, a family that included her 3 brothers, Kyle Fields, Lakeem Jeter, and Tavar Gray. The bond between them was unbreakable, and Lauren, the only girl, quickly became the heart of the household. Growing up in a close-knit family helped Lauren flourish into someone full of ambition, kindness, and strength. Her early years were spent in Stamford, where she attended Stillmeadow Elementary and later Rippowham Middle School. Her teachers and classmates remembered her as bright, curious, and full of energy. She didn't just get good grades, she made an impact. As she progressed through high school at Stamford High, Lauren continued to shine. She was a member of the National Honor Society, the Black Student Union, and the school's track and field team. She developed a love for science, particularly biology and psychology, and dreamed of one day working in the medical field. Lauren was not just brains and books. She had a love for life that was infectious. She enjoyed the arts, fashion, and above all, travel. Her Instagram told the story of a young woman who valued experiences. Pictures of her in London, Italy, and other beautiful places showed a vibrant spirit chasing joy wherever she could find it. After graduating high school with honors, she enrolled at Dutchess Community College in Poughkeepsie, New York, pursuing a degree in nursing. She wanted to help others and make a difference in people's lives. While in college, she joined the Caribbean Student Association and even volunteered at a local hospital, further fueling her passion for healthcare. But Lauren was also navigating adulthood and all the challenges that came with it. She began exploring the world of online dating. At 23, she joined the dating app Bumble, a decision that would seem ordinary for any young adult, but would ultimately lead her down a path no one expected. On December 8, 2021, Lauren matched with a man named Matthew LaFontaine. He was 37, significantly older than Lauren, and also from Bridgeport. Despite the age gap, they clicked almost immediately. They shared common interests in food, family, and travel. In fact, conversations about travel were what allegedly bonded them so quickly. Lauren saw promise in him. She even told her brother during a quick phone call that she had met a white guy on the app and was going out on a date with him soon. That date happened on December 11, 2021. Lauren invited Matthew to her apartment. According to his later statement, he arrived at around 9:30 p.m. and brought a bottle of tequila. They drank together, played some games, had dinner, and settled in to watch a movie. From the outside, it might have seemed like a normal evening between two people getting to know each other. But what happened next would leave the entire community reeling. According to Matthew, at some point during the night, Lauren excused herself to the bathroom, where he said he could hear her getting sick. She later stepped outside, saying she needed to grab something from her brother. She came back and went to the bathroom again for about 10 to 15 minutes. To him, her behavior seemed strange, but he claimed he didn't want to push boundaries. After all, they had only just met. As the night continued, Lauren reportedly fell asleep on the couch. Matthew claimed he carried her to bed and lay next to her. Around 3 a.m., he said he woke up to use the bathroom and noticed she was snoring. That sound, to him, was reassuring. But when he woke again at 6:30 a.m., the reassurance turned into horror. Lauren was no longer breathing, and there was blood coming from her nose. He called 911 in a panic and followed instructions to perform CPR. Emergency responders arrived, but sadly, they pronounced Lauren dead at the scene. Later, the state medical examiner ruled that Lauren had died from an accidental overdose of fentanyl, alcohol, and other prescription drugs.
Bridgeport, Connecticut say Lauren Smith Fields died from acute intoxication. A man that she met on a dating app says he spent the night in her apartment and woke up to find her unresponsive.
The Connecticut Chief Medical Examiner's Office confirmed to Newsy that Smithfield's cause of death was acute intoxication due to the combined effects of fentanyl, promethazine, hydroxyzine, and alcohol.
But that ruling only raised more questions than it answered. Matthew was never treated as a suspect. Despite being the last person to see Lauren alive and the inconsistencies in his account, including statements about what happened at night that raised red flags, police didn't detain him or even consider him for further questioning. But that was just the beginning of a series of troubling events. Lauren's family hadn't even been notified by authorities about her death. Days went by with no word from Lauren, so her mother went to check on her. When she arrived at the apartment, she saw a note taped to the door that read, "If you're looking for Lauren, call this number." When her mother called the number, she was told the unthinkable: her daughter had passed away. A detective promised to meet her soon, but hours passed with no sign of anyone. When she called again to follow up, she was told to stop calling and was hung up on.
It was careless. It was no concern. There was no care for the family about how we felt, our grief, our pain, none of that.
The whole day goes by. No police reach out to the family at all.
They didn't even contact us. They didn't let us know anything. It's crazy. And I'm asking him what's going on. He said she met some guy on Bumble. And I'm asking him about the guy. He was like, "Oh, he sounds like a really nice guy. He sounds like a really good guy." And he was like, "I'll call you back," and just hung up in my face.
This was when the family began to realize that something was deeply wrong. Days after Lauren's death, the family was finally allowed into her apartment. What they found shocked them. Liquor cups were still on the counter. Plates were left flipped. A blood stain remained on the bed. More disturbingly, a used condom and an unidentified pill were found in the trash, evidence that had never been collected by police. Back at the crime scene, something crucial had been overlooked. And now, Lauren's family had to face the painful reality that the investigation into her death was flawed from the start. Her brother Jeter saw her on the night of December 11th. She looked perfectly fine, clear-headed, healthy, and wide awake. Her nails were already done, which didn't match Matthew's story that she'd asked for money to get them done that same day. The family became more vocal. They took to social media, drawing attention to the fact that black women's deaths often receive far less attention than others. Their lawyer, Darnell Crossland, began building a case that the police had failed to conduct a proper investigation. He highlighted how Matthew had not even been interrogated or treated with any suspicion.
They're very disappointed and very heartbroken to learn that their lovely 23-year-old daughter, sister, was subjected to so much lethal. She never used drugs. She was the person who worked out every day in the gym. We've been arguing from the first day this case started that if the police would have did the proper things, they could have found on this gentleman whether in fact he had any trace evidence of fentanyl on his clothing, on his hand. They could have did a DNA swab to see if it purports with the condom that was found in the bathroom in the garbage when he said he never had sex and he never took his clothes off. So the mere fact that this gentleman may have brought these drugs to the house and given it to Lauren, he's guilty of selling drugs under the 21A statute, and that's a 15-year felony. And so the fact that she died then becomes a sale and a manslaughter connected directly.
As the case slowly began gaining attention, public outrage started to grow. And just when it seemed like no one in power was listening, a major voice entered the conversation. While the family mourned and tried to make sense of the tragedy, they were also forced to confront a glaring reality: justice for Lauren seemed painfully out of reach. They didn't just lose a daughter and sister, they were now up against a system that appeared indifferent to their suffering. Yet their resolve only deepened. Soon after the initial wave of media attention, public rallies and community outcries began to surface. Demonstrators gathered in Bridgeport to protest the lack of urgency in the investigation. Signs demanding justice for Lauren were held high, voices rang out through the streets, and supporters from all walks of life came together, calling for accountability.
This weekend, Smithfield's family and hundreds of others marched through Bridgeport on what would have been her 24th birthday. What would you and your family want different in your daughter's death investigation?
Moving forward, I want them to give us answers and don't discard us like we're rubbish. And moving forward, I want Detective Cronin to be fired. I mean, this whole police force from the top to the bottom needs to be revamped.
The family insists Smithfield's death investigation has not been properly handled because the man involved is white. They also say an investigator told them to stop calling, inquiring about the case.
How do you tell a family, stop calling, don't call me anymore, and make us wait for almost an hour, almost 2 hours, and never show up? Yeah, I want his badge.
But what investigators discovered next would change everything. New details emerged about Matthew LaFontaine's account that didn't quite line up. The inconsistencies piled up. His claims about not having sexual contact with Lauren were contradicted by physical evidence. Items that could have yielded crucial forensic information were overlooked at the scene. It was only when Lauren's family returned to the apartment to collect her belongings that these pieces were even noticed. The discovery of a used condom, a mysterious pill, and a bloodstain on the sheets should have triggered an immediate forensic investigation. But the police had failed to properly secure the scene. This negligence raised more than questions, it suggested a systemic disregard. Then came the national outrage. Public figures, including lawmakers and celebrities, took notice. Cardi B, whose influence reaches millions, brought national attention to Lauren's case by calling out media bias and criticizing how the investigation was handled. She questioned why there was so little effort and so few answers. Her voice became a megaphone for Lauren's family, amplifying the demand for justice. Inspired by the support, the Smithfields family pushed even harder. They began working closely with legal teams and community leaders to expose every misstep. Their fight wasn't just for Lauren anymore, it was for every black woman whose voice had been silenced or dismissed. As detectives pieced together the timeline, the public's demand for justice reached a fever pitch. It was only after this intense pressure that the city responded. Bridgeport's mayor, Joe Ganim, suspended detectives Kevin Cronin and Angel Llanos, citing their failure to follow proper protocol. Another officer involved in the investigation retired. The city launched an internal review, and state authorities began to look closer at what had gone wrong. Still, the family pressed on. Their determination birthed an initiative known as Lauren's Law. This proposed legislation would require police to notify a victim's next of kin within 24 hours of confirming their identity. It was a direct response to the pain Lauren's mother endured, learning of her daughter's death not from an official, but from a note taped to a door. The push for Lauren's Law gained traction. Lawmakers expressed interest in moving it forward.
It's really important for us as a community to stand behind them and to let them know that we stand with them.
Before I'm a state rep, I'm a dad, and no parent should have to endure the pain that Lauren Smithfields and Brenda Lee Rawls families have experienced. Lauren's Law passed unanimously, and I want to thank all the lawmakers who helped to make that happen.
Community support surged. For the Smithfields family, it became a mission that gave meaning to their heartbreak. But even as they moved forward, the grief was still raw.
Without a doubt, we know that my daughter was not a drug user, and I had a second autopsy myself, paid out of pocket, because we felt so uncomfortable with the way it was handled.
I asked him about the guy. He just made it seem like the guy was a nice guy. There was nothing to investigate.
The only contact that we have had was from a very insensitive, condescending, and arrogant detective.
Planning Lauren's funeral just days before Christmas was a devastating task. Her mother had to make arrangements while still in shock, trying to reconcile the vibrant young woman she knew with the lifeless image left behind. The pain was compounded by unanswered questions. Why had Matthew LaFontaine not been treated as a suspect? Why did investigators fail to follow up on obvious leads? Why was Lauren's family left in the dark for so long? These questions haunted the community and fueled continued outrage. The city of Bridgeport found itself under a microscope, with advocates demanding sweeping reforms in how deaths, especially those involving women of color, are investigated. Then, on what would have been Lauren's 24th birthday, her family held a memorial march. Supporters turned out in droves. They wore shirts with Lauren's image, carried signs with her name, and chanted for justice.
want justice for everybody. We're doing this for Lauren. We're doing this for justice. We're doing this for every black girl that ever been harmed, that ever been in danger.
I just wanted to stop and let everybody take a look at what nice looks like in America now. Let's keep going. No more nice guys! No more nice guys! Mayor Ganem, step up! Mayor Ganem, step up!
It was a day of remembrance, but also a powerful reminder that Lauren's story was far from forgotten. And just when it seemed like momentum might fade, another powerful moment reinvigorated the cause. Lauren's family used the march to announce the establishment of a foundation in her name, dedicated to supporting other families affected by similar tragedies. The foundation would offer legal assistance, grief counseling, and advocacy for better investigative procedures. It was a way of turning pain into purpose. The Smithfields family knew their battle wasn't over. They used the momentum to launch fundraisers, awareness campaigns, and legal action. Their lawyer, Darnell Crossland, emphasized that the case represented something much bigger, a failure of the system to protect those who are too often overlooked. And as time passed, more people joined the cause. Civil rights organizations began citing Lauren's case in broader discussions about racial disparities in law enforcement. Her story became a symbol for change. Still, Matthew LaFontaine remains a free man. Despite public scrutiny and mounting pressure, there has been little legal movement. The investigation has slowed, and official updates are rare. This silence has left Lauren's loved ones feeling betrayed once again. But her family refuses to give up. They continue to hold press conferences, organize community events, and push for legislative reforms. Every action is fueled by the belief that Lauren deserves justice, that her life mattered. What happened next would leave the entire community reeling. The foundation's initiatives began gaining national attention, drawing in experts, journalists, and activists who had long been calling for criminal justice reform. Collaborative workshops, educational programs, and lobbying efforts began to take root, making Lauren's name synonymous with progress and resilience. And with that, the pieces finally fit together. Lauren's legacy was becoming bigger than the tragedy that ended her life. It was transforming into a movement that challenged institutions and demanded humanity. The truth, however, was even more horrifying than anyone imagined. Not because of what was known, but because of how much was ignored. Today, Lauren Smithfield's name is etched into the collective memory of a movement. Her story is told not just as a tragedy, but as a call to action. Her family's fight is ongoing, and their resilience is a testament to the enduring power of love, hope, and justice.
A few states away, in Florida, another woman who built herself up from nothing was lying in her own bed when her husband decided her life was worth more to him dead than alive. And his plan was even colder than anything you just heard. Before you meet the man who did it, you have to meet the woman he married. So watch her introduce herself to the world in her own voice, alive and glowing, and proud of everything she fought for.
Hi everyone, happy Tuesday. I'm Makiva Jenkins with the Prime Enterprise Group. I am a business strategist and coach. I provide entrepreneurs with access to business planning tools that will help them operate a successful business. And I will be going live from my Facebook page later today. If you enjoy my live broadcast and you like the information that I share, it helps you build your business or grow a business.
That is Makiva Jenkins, a 33-year-old mother in Palm Beach County, Florida, and her story is the kind you are supposed to root for. Just a few years before her death, she had hit rock bottom, because in 2013, she and her family were actually homeless with nowhere steady to sleep. Most people fold under that kind of pressure, but Makiva went and started a business in the middle of it. She built a company called the Prime Enterprise Group that helped other people write business plans and chase their own dreams. She earned a master's degree, poured herself into her church, and was the kind of woman other people came to for advice on how to fix their own lives. She had clawed her way up from having nothing and did it without stepping on anybody. By every account, she was the best thing in her marriage, and everybody in her world could see that, except, it seems, the one man who was supposed to see it most. Makeva met her husband, Yuri Jenkins, on New Year's Eve back in 2009 at a church celebration. He was the good-looking son of a pastor and a barber by trade, charming enough to make her let her guard all the way down. They started dating, she got pregnant, and they got married in a church ceremony where her own brother walked her down the aisle. Here is the truth of who was actually carrying that marriage, though. Yuri cut hair out of the garage of their home, while Makeva ran the businesses, brought in the real money, and even helped set him up. He was basically a stay-at-home dad while she was the engine behind the whole family. And instead of being a real partner to her, he slowly became a problem. The marriage was rotting from the inside. Yuri cheated on her, and worse than that, he fathered a child with another woman and fell nearly $20,000 behind on child support for that kid. Money was tight and getting tighter, and a lot of that pressure landed right on Makeva's shoulders. In May of 2017, she had finally had enough and filed for divorce, and then life did something cruel to her because she found out she was pregnant again. Being the woman she was, she withdrew the divorce and decided to give the marriage one more real shot. Just days before her death, she was still posting sweet things about her husband online, talking about the 7 years they'd shared since that church meeting. She was choosing her family, with no idea her husband had already chosen something else. While Makeva was busy trying to save her marriage, Yuri was quietly trying to end her life. According to what came out later, he no longer loved her and had his eyes on a $500,000 life insurance policy that he believed had his name on it as the person who would get paid. In his head, killing his pregnant wife was just a business move, and one witness said Yuri flat out called it a money play. Here is how sick the setup really was. When Yuri first started shopping the idea around, he didn't even have the nerve to say it straight, so he went to his friend Dimitri Dale. At the start, he claimed the person he wanted killed was his own father. Only later did he admit the real target was his pregnant wife and that he simply didn't love her anymore. He couldn't pull the trigger himself, so he built a little team. He went to that same longtime friend, Dimitri Dale, and asked him to help find somebody who would do the job. And Dale brought in a 19-year-old named Jovan Joseph. The day before the murder, Yuri met that young boy at the family home, walked him through the house, showed him exactly where Makeva would be sleeping, handed him a gun that cost about $60, and paid him $10,000 in cash up front, with a promise of another $10,000 once it was done. They didn't even settle on one idea right away, because when Yuri and Jovan sat down together, they talked over a few different ways to do it. One version had them catching Makeva at work, another had them staging a car accident, and they even talked about making it look like somebody was trying to kill both Makeva and Yuri, so the husband would come off like a victim instead of a suspect. Out of all of that, they picked the coldest option on the table. The plan itself was cold in how simple it was, because they were going to fake a home invasion. A masked stranger would burst in, wave a gun around like it was a robbery, and in the middle of all the chaos, he'd slip into the bedroom and kill Makeva while she slept, then run off. This would make the whole thing look like a random break-in gone wrong, and nobody would ever look twice at the grieving husband standing out in the driveway. Jovan even wrote the whole thing down, because in a 3-page handwritten note he titled his game plan. He laid out the meeting, the money, gun, and hours leading up to the killing. His own mother would later find that letter and turn it over to the police. The two of them were also leaving a trail all over town without even realizing it. That same evening, Dale's white Dodge Charger ran out of gas at a drive-thru, and the young gunman had to hop out and push it, all of it caught on camera, with a fast food receipt from that night ending up inside the abandoned getaway car later. The phone records were just as bad for them, because every single time Yuri reached out to Dale in the days before the murder, Dale turned right around and called Jovan. That made a straight line you could follow from the husband to the middleman to the trigger. They thought they were being smart, but they were really just building the case against themselves.
That night, Makeva went to bed around 9, worn out from a full day of work, with no clue that the man she was trying to build a future with had already paid to erase her. It was somewhere around 2 in the morning on the 29th of June, 2017. Makeva's younger brother, Quay Greer, who lived with the family and loved his sister like a second mother, was sitting in the garage getting a late-night lineup from Yuri, and Dimitri Dale was in there too, so everything felt completely normal. A masked man came through the garage with a revolver and a t-shirt tied around his face so only his eyes showed, and he started yelling for money, playing his role in the fake robbery. He forced all of them up the stairs into the main house. Dale, who was in on it, asked if he could take the young children downstairs to safety, and strangely, the gunman let him. Then that masked man did something no random robber would ever do. He asked for Makeva's mother by name, saying, "Where's Quest?" Quest was Makeva and Quay's mama, and she had not even been to that house in a long time, so a stranger robbing a home would have no reason to know her name. Somebody on the inside had fed him that. After that, he ordered Quay and Yuri to lie face down on the floor. Here is the detail that gives the whole thing away, though. With everybody on the ground, the gunman did not rob anybody. He walked straight into the dark master bedroom where Makeva was sleeping, the exact room Yuri had shown him the day before. It was one shot, and that was all it took, because Makeva never even woke up. He fired a single bullet into her head from a couple of feet away and killed her and her unborn child instantly. Then he sprinted out of the house and drove off in Dale's white Dodge Charger. Quay and Yuri ran into the room and found her bleeding out, and Quay grabbed the phone and made a call no brother should ever have to make.
911 emergency.
Someone please get here now!
Hello?
Get here now, my sister is dying for her life, man. She's fighting for her life. My sister just got shot in the head. Call somebody.
Okay, who shot her, do you know?
No, they came in with an all-black mask on.
Alright, hold on 1 second, alright?
Oh my God, man. Y'all get here, please.
Makeba was rushed to the hospital, but there was nothing anybody could do. So she was gone, and so was her baby.
The search is on for a gunman who killed a mother of 3 in Boynton Beach.
Days after, Yuri played the part of the broken widower for the cameras, going on the news talking about the good woman he lost and how he had to hold on to the good memories.
We're hearing from her husband about her tragic final moments.
She was a strong woman, a strong Christian. She kept me level. I held her in my arms. She was alive.
It was a good performance, but performances only last so long, and detectives were already starting to notice that the man crying on camera did not add up. At first, they wondered if this really was a robbery, or maybe somebody coming after Makeba because she had bragged online about making good money. A robber does not walk past everything of value just to put one bullet in a sleeping woman and leave. This was an execution dressed up as a robbery. And once detectives started pulling on the threads, the husband's story fell apart fast. Quay told them the gunman's voice sounded exactly like the man who had been at the house earlier that day, visiting Yuri and Dale. And meanwhile, the grieving husband was acting all wrong. The lead detective later said Yuri was joking way too much for a man whose wife had just been shot. And the day after the murder, Yuri went to a strip club and posted about it. Then came the piece that really sank him. A few days after burying his wife, Yuri called the insurance company about that $500,000 policy and got the shock of his life.
I understand you have some questions.
About the beneficiary information.
And you are the spouse, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm actually seeing on the application here that you were not listed as beneficiary.
Oh, wow. Is it the kid?
No, and unfortunately I can't disclose that. That's considered confidential, and I can only speak to the beneficiary on file.
Okay, I gotta figure out who is. Oh, wow. Dang, she didn't change it in time.
He was not the one set to get the money because Makeba had put a relative down instead. He had killed his pregnant wife for a payday that was never even coming to him.
It's been more than a month since Makeva Jenkins was violently shot and killed inside her home, and today on what would be her 34th birthday, her family pleading for answers.
We don't know what happened, we don't know how that come about, but I do know her life shouldn't have been cut that short.
A family desperately trying to put the pieces together and understand why.
And we can't get by. We are doing the best we can, going from one day to the next. We need closure, that's all.
Jenkins' husband Yuri was late to the press conference and didn't want to talk to us in the parking lot, but his brother telling us this.
Her and Yuri were deeply in love, and that's really the entire story. The rest of it, some maniac out there did what they did.
In the interrogation room, his lies just kept stacking up. When detectives showed him a photo of the very man who had come to his house earlier that day, the same man his brother-in-law suspected was the gunman, Yuri covered for him without blinking, saying he had just cut the guy's hair and did not know him. He also swore up and down that he had no idea his own wife was pregnant, which the detective did not believe for a second, since knowing that would make it 2 murders instead of 1.
You never told me she was pregnant.
I thought I never told you that?
No. And if that was important to you, you would have told me.
I thought I told you that.
No, I would have known. I didn't find out till autopsy.
They also pressed him on why, when the gunman left him alone upstairs with his phone in his pocket, he never once tried to call for help, and he had no real answer for that either. The case cracked all the way open when detectives got to Dimitri Dale because the getaway charger belonged to him and his phone was full of calls to Jovan Joseph. Eventually, Dale broke, and it turned out he had been secretly recording his phone calls with Yuri after the murder.
I know, and I told you this from day one.
Why did you cover for this guy so long? It took me 5 interviews to finally get you
because
to admit.
I was going to say something in the very beginning, but I didn't, because at the end of the day, all odds were against me.
And on those recordings, Yuri damns himself in his own voice.
Hello?
Yeah, Yuri.
But murdering my wife? Man, bro, listen, dog. I'm not going to jail for that, man. No, just walk out the room. Don't say my name, ring your phone, none of that.
All right.
The young gunman had even tried to build himself an alibi, showing up at a hospital about a half hour after the killing so he could claim he had been somewhere else. But the timelines and the cameras did not match his story, and that lie fell apart like all the rest.
Tonight for a family who wanted to know who gunned down this mother of 3. A 19-year-old man is in custody.
I know this would help us to know that she'll be resting in peace.
But what is Jovan Joseph's connection to Makiva? Well, a lot of questions tonight, as Makiva's family is grateful there is an arrest, but they want to know why and what led to today's indictment.
A plea for answers from Makiva Jenkins' family just a few weeks ago on what would have been her 34th birthday.
The message will be to them, please take heed of what you've done and confess.
And now, an arrest.
I'm so glad justice is being done.
19-year-old Jovan Joseph is charged with first-degree murder in Jenkins' death.
This person took her life. He didn't only take hers, he took our whole family.
Jenkins' grandmother isn't sure if last month's press conference led to Joseph's arrest, but either way, she feels relieved.
Jovan Joseph was arrested in September of 2017.
How did Joseph express his displeasure with the fact that Yuri hasn't given him anything?
He just told me he was going to body him. That's what he told me.
Body means?
Kill him. I mean, if there's any information I can give you, I have no problem with that, because at the end of the day.
And a few months later, once Dale had rolled over and handed detectives those recordings, they finally had their mastermind. So Yuri Jenkins was arrested that December and charged with first-degree murder. The trial got delayed for years because of the pandemic, but when it finally happened, the gunman himself took the stand and told the jury everything in the flattest, coldest way you can imagine.
After multiple delays, the trial against a father accused of having his pregnant wife killed while she was sleeping is now underway, a case that has sparked outrage and has left a family divided. WPTV's Cameron Leppinger inside the courtroom and has today's testimony from one of the state's key witnesses.
Day 2 of the trial continued with the alleged middleman Dimitri Dale testifying against his longtime friend Yuri Jenkins. During his testimony, he says Jenkins told him that he didn't want anyone talking about his wife's murder over fear of getting arrested.
He said, man, my kids, he said, I can't go to jail for something I didn't do. You say, tell your friend to shut up.
Dale went on to admit that he lied under oath multiple times to detectives, but claimed he had nothing to do with the shooting death of 33-year-old Makiva Jenkins.
And you told a lot of lies in those conversations.
I'm not, and I never denied that.
The pregnant mother of 3 was shot to death while sleeping inside her own home near Lantana back in June 2017. After 5 years of delays, partly due to the pandemic, her family is one step closer to justice. Prosecutors say her husband, Yuri Jenkins, hired a hitman to kill her because he didn't love her anymore and to cash in on her $500,000 life insurance policy. Jenkins, Dale, and the confessed gunman, Jovan Joseph, were all charged with the murder. While on the stand, Dale claimed he was only responsible for helping Jenkins find someone to commit the murder.
The emotion in that courtroom got so heavy that at one point, Makiva's brother, Quay, lunged clear across the room and tried to attack Yuri and had to be carried out by deputies. And he did not care what happened to him after that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, could I have you all go out into the jury room, please? Please don't discuss anything about the case while you're back there. I see counsel up the bench, please.
The defense tried to argue the whole case was built on liars, since both accomplices had lied to police at first and both had plea deals. But the recordings, the letter, the insurance call, and the testimony were just too much to get around. On the 6th of May, 2022, the jury convicted Yuri Jenkins of first-degree murder, and the judge sentenced him on the spot. That was life in prison with no chance of parole, and an appeals court upheld that conviction in December of 2023, so he's never coming home.
Jury in the trial of Yuri Jenkins has found him guilty of hiring a hitman to kill his pregnant wife, Makiva Jenkins. The judge sentenced him to life in prison.
We in the jury find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
And the victim's family was visibly emotional as the jury read that verdict. The judge sentenced Jenkins to life in prison.
We in the jury find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. So say we all, this 6th day of May 22nd in West Palm Beach County, Florida.
Jovan got 15 years for his part, and Dale, who cooperated, walked away with a far lighter deal. Makiva's grandmother, the woman who raised her, stood up in that courtroom and refused to be bitter, even after everything that had been done to her family.
But on neither side was a winner. I know how he has made his family feel, because they had no idea he could do something like this.
And Harold continued to say that she had nothing bad to say about Jenkins, and all she wants now is for everyone to find peace.
She was right, too, because nobody walked away from this a winner. You had 2 women in 2 different states, both of them strong providers, carrying their whole families on their backs. Both of them were killed by the one man who was supposed to protect them. The lesson their families keep repeating is the exact same one, over and over. The warning signs are almost always there before the worst thing happens. Whether it's the jealousy, the money problems, the lies, or those cold little moments that just don't sit right in your gut. Deshay's sister said it as plain as it can be said, that love is not that deep, and if something inside you is telling you to get out, you listen to it, and you get away while you still can. Let me know what you think about these cases in the comments section. Also, click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.